Acerglyn, we're done. It's over. It's time to bottle it up.
Thank God.
We started it on November 19th, 2020. Today is May 21st, 2021. That's almost 6 months exactly. That's a long time. I love it. The longer you let your meads or wines bulk age, the better they taste. Brief review of the recipe. We did 2 pounds of clover honey, 1.5 pounds of amber grade maple syrup, 1 cinnamon stick, and 1 clove. And then we used Lalvin 71B yeast.
Now, was that the right yeast to use, do you think?
I don't think that was in the end the best yeast for this, but we will cover that at the very end in my notes for next time section. So please don't jump the gun, Ricky. I'm the one in charge. You're not in charge, I'm in charge.
I'm sorry, Miles.
Okay. Today, we're gonna rack it into a pitcher, taste it, and if it's good and perfect and we love it, we're going to bottle it, and we'll be done. So you'll see, to siphon, you just have your original fermenter elevated above whatever thing you're going to siphon into, and then you get your auto siphon, as I have here, and as you've seen many, many times, and you put it all the way to the bottom, because you want to get everything, okay? And then you give it several priming presses, as I am doing right here, and then through the magic of gravity, it just works. It works. And so Ricky's gonna get in close. See, it's going down, and boom. Boom, siphoned. Now that it's in the pitcher, we want to take a hydrometer reading, and then we're going to taste it. The reading is just to confirm that there was no further re-fermentation of our Acerglyn, because if there was, that might mean it's a little risky business bottling it up right now, because should fermentation continue on in those bottles, what happens, Ricky?
It's gonna explode.
Boom. I'm sure right now there's some nice B-roll footage of an explosion, so that's what would happen. And we don't want that.
It looks like we're finished up here at about 1.32 or 34?
Okay, so 1.034.
1.034.
1.34 would be ridiculous.
Yeah,
Silly Ricky.
That'd be way up
You're
there.
a moron.
Idiot.
That was the reading we got after back sweetening this in video 2, 1.034. So there was no more fermentation. We're good. We're safe to bottle.
All right, definitely more of a refined smell than from a few months back. It's definitely a little bit more faint. I think it's just from adding all that maple syrup and maybe letting it sit with kind of like let things kind of, a little mellow it down. It's not in your face anymore because it was, back in January, it was punching me. And right now it's just kind of lightly pushing me just a little bit. So
your metaphors are masterful.
Oh, thank you. Oh yeah, I think this is definitely where we want it to be, especially considering the level of spices in this Acerglyn. I think this is the best we're gonna get. So here, give it a taste, Miles.
Let's see here. Well,
the true sommelier.
Yeah, absolutely. So I get a lot of maple flavor, which makes sense. We put like a whole tree's worth of maple syrup into this.
Almost as much as I drink every day.
Ricky's made of maple syrup.
Mm-hmm. Dripping with it.
Gross. I like this. I like this a lot. The alcohol flavor, the alcohol hit, is still decently strong. It still burns a little bit, burns the back of my throat, but it's pretty balanced. The original gravity on this was note box right here, and it's telling you what it was, because my book's all the way over there. And the final gravity was 1.00 even. So the alcohol content on this is a 14.7 or so %. So this is a pretty high alcohol mead or wine. And that's why you're getting that kick. Nevertheless, if we bottle this up and let it age 6 months to a year longer, I think the overall flavor profile will be excellent. So if you watched any of my previous bottling videos, you know that I stabilize my meads or wines. I add 2 stabilizing chemicals, potassium metabisulfite and potassium sorbate. We're not going to add potassium sorbate because that only needs to be added if there's a risk of the yeast fermenting any residual sugar. This has been sitting for well over 4 months with the exact same level of sugar. It means that whatever yeast in here are dead. They're not going to be re-fermenting. So all we're going to be adding is potassium metabisulfite. Ricky, go ahead and explain what that one does.
Well, as Miles said, it's a stabilizer. And as I will say, I know nothing more about what this is. I apologize.
It's fine, Ricky, it's fine. I just might have to find a new co-host. So potassium metabisulfite is a stabilizing compound And what it does is it releases free sulfites, prolonging the shelf life of your wine. If you don't add, I'm talking. So if you don't add stabilizers, it probably would only last for 2 to 5 years. When you add them, you get 10 or more years. Obviously, I'm totally kidding. It's just for the
I know.
shtick.
I know.
So the dose here is a 1/16 of a teaspoon per gallon of wine or mead.
And what we got here is exactly 1 gallon, right?
All right, so we're ready to bottle. To bottle today, we're going to be using an auto siphon, okay? So it's the exact same thing that we use to siphon into our pitcher, into secondary containers, whatever, but we're going to be siphoning into bottles. And to do that, we're going to add to the basic apparatus this thing here, which is a bottle filler. When that stem valve at the end is pushed in, liquid flows. When you pull up and the stem valve pops out, liquid flow stops. So you can move from bottle to bottle easily without spilling.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead and hold the bottle here, make sure it's stable. Okay. So you just let it go all the way to the top here and then pull out. Because then the liquid displaces to where the shoulder meets the neck. And that's exactly where you want it.
Right where you want it to be. So, if I want to store these miles, let's say, eventually, you'd say you want to prefer to age it. You said for a year total.
Right.
Would that be a year starting from now or a year from when we first started letting it sit?
Well, it's been conditioning now for like 6 months. So typically when people talk about how long to age homemade wine or mead, they're talking about once primary fermentation is done, once the yeast have essentially stopped consuming alcohol and you're either bulk aging it or bottle aging it. We bulk aged it in secondary for 4 months, and then you bottle age it from there on out once it's in the bottles. So depending on how long you bulk aged it, you can bottle age it less to achieve a fully balanced and well-aged mead.
Okay.
So for this, I would let this sit as long as you can, as long as you have the self-control to do it. I would let it sit for at least 6 months to get the best final product.
Okay. Look at that.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
Boom! It's all done.
Oh my God, Miles, it's finally here. Right in front of us.
Yep. I'm very proud of us. Ricky, I think we did a really good job with this Acerglyn.
Yeah, first go around. Tastes pretty good.
Nevertheless, to do better and to do well, you've got to critically assess your work. So, notes for next time. What would I do differently with this brew? Number 1, I would not use Lauven 71B. I would use Lauven QA23. The inspiration for this correction comes from Doing the Most, the YouTube channel. I'll have a link to the video where he makes a maple wine and uses that yeast. And the reason that yeast is going to be better is that it tends to bring out terpenes, which are aromatic compounds in plants. And maple syrup has a ton of terpenes in them. So QA23 tends to pair really well with maple syrup to bring out the maple flavor, that rich texture, all of those things. Number 2, I would use grade B maple syrup. Grade A and grade B don't refer to the quality, like grade A is winning and grade B is just losing. No. Grade B is a richer maple syrup flavor. It's allowed to saturate in the maple tree for longer before it's extracted, so you just get more rich flavor. That's the stuff to use in home brew. Number 3, and this is the big one, which you know from watching video 2, is I would leave the relevant spices in here for way less time because it made the wine bitter. They were in here for 2 months. 2 months is too long. The appropriate time frame is probably more like 2 weeks. So what I would do in this case for this recipe is I would ferment out the maple syrup and the honey, and I wouldn't add the spices in until secondary fermentation. Because then, after I add them in secondary, I can taste it once a week, every week. And then once I get enough of that spiced flavor, I rack it off the spices and we're done. And so with those corrections and redoing this again one day, I think we will get a stellar product. But this stuff is still pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for error with these type of things, and even with the the few mistakes that we made along the way, it's still a pretty good product.
Well, thank you so much, Ricky, for coming on the show. I really have had a good time these last 3 video sessions hanging out with you.
Of course, it's been a real pleasure.
Go and watch the rest of my videos, check it out, like this video, comment on it with any questions you might have, and subscribe to the channel.
Don't forget to hit that bell in the corner so that you get a notification every time Miles makes a new video.
So go check out the world of Let's Whine About It, and have a great day. Bye-bye. I'm gonna say bye-bye again, and then you say bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I was expecting you to do it.
I don't know what I was thinking there. I waved, but I didn't say nothing.
It's okay. It might look fine. When
I was starstruck, Miles. I'm just happy to be here.
So, nevertheless, to do... Okay. I would leave the relevant spices in here for a long time.
Way less time.
There you go.